This is Rowena Dooley asking Sol citizens to report for duty. This is Rowena Dooley asking Sol citizens to report for duty.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of Soul Citizens, episode 207, Where to Invade Next. I'm your host, Fastcart, and I'm joined by, well, potentially three potential co-hosts, but I'm joined by two at the moment. Let me introduce Jade. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing good.
Great, good. And how's your week been?
It's been great. Yeah, and I've been looking forward to this show too, because this is a topic near and dear to my heart.
Yep. And I'm also joined by CaptainSeriousFun. How are you doing?
Greetings and salutations. How are you tonight? How are things? My week has gone well. It's being topped off by being with you lovely folks tonight.
He's always so gracious. I don't know how he does it. He was well raised. I'm glad to have you both here. And Griffin is going to join us in a bit. But yes, so yeah, today is June 9th. Like I said, this is Where to Invade Next. Where we get to talk about potential systems that are coming to the Star Citizen universe that we know. Some things we know about, some things we may not know about. And, you know, there'll be some speculation. So don't take everything as gospel that we say tonight. But, you know, this should be a fun episode. So, y'all ready to get started?
Ready.
Yes, indeed. Let's get it.
So, let's start off with, well, let me change this, but, you know. So, yes, we're going to use the Star map extensively in this episode. But let's give a brief rundown of what we can expect to talk about. So, like, we have the dancing system. Oh, by the way, we're going to be using the Galactopedia. I recommend people check that out.
Yes.
If you could put that link in chat for me, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite links on the Robert Space Industries site.
Yes, thank you. But yeah, obviously we started off with the stanton system. Everyone, people should know who a stanton is. That's where we all start out at the moment. But CaptainSeriousFun, you want to give us the first paragraph about the stanton, please, from the the Galactopedia?
Sure. The Stanton system is a planetary system in the United Empire of Earth, or UEE, discovered in SEY 2851 by nav jumper Toshi Aaron. It is one of only 2 fully colonized systems in the UEE and is made up of 3 super Earths, a gas giant, an asteroid belt, and a G-type star. All planets in the system were sold by the UEE government to 4 major corporations soon after their discovery. While inhabitants are protected under UEE's common laws, they are also subject to rules imposed by the individual corporations that own each planet.
Thank you for that.
That's why you get stopped so often by them Hurston police and not necessarily
Right.
anywhere
Is that
else.
what it is?
Except Colossal. Colossal never gets stopped.
Right.
Yeah, he had that multi-pass. I think he must have that. He must know things. He got the inside knowledge thing going on. But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay then. So thank you for that. Yeah, that's just where we all started. Any thoughts you want to give about Stanton? Obviously this is where we all started.
Which one of us?
Yeah, IW. Jade.
Oh yeah. So one of the cool things about Stanton is that in Star Citizen's lore and the history of the universe that we're in the year 2954 now. Stanton was one of the most recently discovered systems. 2851 was when it was discovered, and if you look at how quickly it became populated, it shows there was like a rush to get in there, and I find that's one of the coolest things about it, because it really does make sense that it would not be a totally safe system like Terra. They're basically still working things out in Stanton, so that gives you a little bit of background. I mean, it shows you that when you log in the game, when they give you the brief description, that the different companies that own those planets are struggling with security. And part of that was just, they rushed in there and bought up the planets, and, they're still trying to work out their security situations. So, yeah.
Now, I'm going to bring up the star map, because that's going to be something we also may use extensively. So if someone could put that link in chat, I appreciate it. So if you click on the star map and go to the loading interface, I'm going to go to the bookmark because I already have it bookmarked. Oh, I thought I had a bookmark. It said I had no bookmark yet, but I did. Oh well, I'll type it in manually. If I can type correctly. Okay, so we're going to go to Stanton. And this gives us a look at Stanton. You're going to zoom out. It's a great application. This won several awards when it first came out, 2017-ish. So yeah, so
it was out before 2017. I think it's 2015 or 2016.
2016.
Yeah.
So it's been around for a while. They've continued to update it with the lore and different updates to the Galactopedia and stuff like that to try to make them match. And one of the interesting things about Stanton is that this is the first system we got when they introduced the PU, or what they called back then baby persistent universe, baby PU. They thought about doing Terra. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, they thought about doing Terra, but they decided to. Stanton has a whole bunch of other stuff inside the system that they can iterate on. Terra, I don't want to say a one-trick pony, but it's limited. So they decided to go with Stanton instead of Terra. What were we going to say, Cap?
I was just going to say that. For it to be one of the only 2 fully colonized systems in the UEE is of interest. You can see how broad the green belt is here. For those of you that haven't used the star map before, the green belt is the ostensible Goldilocks zone where you might find habitable or terraformable planetary bodies. And if you look around a star map at other systems, there are not many systems that have that broad and inclusive in terms of its planets, a green zone. I also find Stanton interesting in that we anticipate over the long term to experience it as corp sec or mid sec, right? So it is a corporate system, so it has corporate security for the most part, even though there's UEE overtones when things get really bad. But we can anticipate places like Pyro to be less lawful when it comes to UEE governance and law, although there might be gang order, right? And Terra to be much higher security. So this seems to be somewhere in the middle, but it's a corporate take on being in the middle. So to Jade's point, it's evolving on the basis of those corporate endeavors, which is also makes it a very interesting system to be in.
Yes, then it has Crusader, the planet, Stanton, that's the name of the star and the planet. Well, we call it Stanton, but it probably has a number beside it. Hurston and ArcCorp. And yes, and has three, as far as I can see, three jump points in it. It had the Stanton the Magnus, Stanton the Terror, and Stanton the Pyro. And I think we're going to go to Stanton the Pyro real quick, and because that was a great segue. So let's click on that. And then go travel through. I turned off sound.
Did you say that was a great segue if you do say so yourself?
No, you're the one who brought it up. But yeah,
did I?
Pyro. Yeah, you're the one who brought up Pyro. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, this is Pyro. And yes, we're going to go to the Galactopedia entry for Pyro. So Jade, would you be so kind to read us what it says about Pyro, the first paragraph, please?
Sure. So the Pyro system is an unclaimed planetary system that consists of a K-type flare star, 5 terrestrial planets, and a gas giant. Discovered in 2493 by Pyrotechnic Amalgamated, it was not claimed by the United Nations of Earth, UNE, due in part to the dangerous surrounding its star. Instead, it was exploited by corporate interests until the 2560s, when when the potential resources extracted from the system stopped outweighing the increased cost of maintaining equipment under a volatile sun. Pyro became a haven for outlaws by the early 600s. Today, it's mostly populated by criminal factions that frequently struggle against one another for dominance. And specifically around Rune Station. In 2947, extremist group Xenothreat seized control of Rune Station, making them the de facto leaders of the Pyro system. So that is the home of Xenothreat, if you didn't know already.
And 2947 is actually 2017 in our time, because everything is 930 years in the future. So that's when they first introduced Xenothreat into the lore, but also into the Stanton system, the dynamic event. So it's been 7 years since we've been dealing with Xenothreat.
Well, no, we didn't have Xenothreat in the game in 2017. This is specifically the lore in the game,
right?
Not what we got.
Yeah, I think that was a bit early for Xenothreat, but yeah, I saw 2947. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, we didn't even have like landable planets in 2017 yet.
Mm-hmm. Right. So yeah, so we got the
they could have taken control of it. They could have taken control of it off screen, and we didn't experience it till they tried to come to Stanton where we were.
Right. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yep.
So we got Pyro the Terror. That's a. Oops, I didn't mean to do that.
Before you leave Pyro, let me just say.
No, I'm not trying to. That was a mistake on my end. But go ahead.
What's interesting about Pyro to me is that, even those among us who have had the chance from the technical preview standpoint to experience some of it have only experienced the inner planets, right? We experienced Pyro 1, Pyro 2 are Monarchs, and Pyro 3 are Bloom. What's coming for us are the planetary systems and moons further out, where you will find Ruin Station, right? So, and what's interesting about, what is it, Pyro 5, Jade?
Yes, I've been there.
Is that, I mean, that is the planet that has another planet in orbit around it. Is that right?
Yep, it does. It has Pyro 4, which sort of got captured. So it orbits along with its moons. And there's an interesting astronomical thing that happens when you're on one of the moons of Pyro. And I'm not going to give it away. I don't want to spoil it for people. But when you get to Pyro, stop and smell the Pyro crabs, I guess, because they don't have roses. But definitely, linger in places in Pyro and just wait a while and you may see it.
Thank you for
Very,
that.
very interesting.
Yeah, and I just want to say one more thing about habitable zones, because that's kind of my jam anyway, IRL. So stellar habitable zones, the green zones, the Goldilocks zones are basically where liquid water can exist on a planet without anything else other than the heat of the star, right? So we have in Stanton, all these planets that are in that habitable zone. And in Pyro, you have a couple. But just because you're in the habitable zone doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a habitable planet. Monox is not habitable. Bloom is. Bloom is beautiful planet when you go to Pyro. And the other thing is, people sometimes ask, is that how plausible is that? Because in our solar system, we only have one that's in our habitable zone, in our green Goldilocks zone. That's the Earth, right? It's actually more common than most people think. There's a star called TRAPPIST-1, and it has a bunch of planets in its habitable zone. In fact, it seems like between 1 and 2.5 planets on average could be in the habitable zone of sun-like stars, IRL. So Star Citizen was kind of ahead of that research in that respect.
Thank you for that.
Very interesting.
And Thwackadog, thank you for gifting me with a subscription to Soul Citizen. Thank you, I appreciate it. And I forgot to mention, thank you, CaptainSeriousSFun, for those bits earlier when we first got started. So thank you for that. Yeah, what I'm trying to draw attention to the jump point that we have. So we just came from Stanton, so that's a jump point, Pyro to Stanton, and it's Pyro to Terra. And there's also, let me see. Oops, trying to move over this thing around. Pyro to also. So yeah.
And Pyro to Castra. You went by Pyro to Castra. If you go back.
There it is. There. Thank you for Thank you, Pyro to Castra. And it's Pyro to Nyx. But yeah.
Yep.
I think on this list we have also here, but yeah. So we'll jump to also. Then we talk about Nyx. So let's. Oh, I was remiss. I did forget one thing at the beginning of the show. We wanted to talk about this Comlink article. So Star Citizen Alpha 3.210. Talk about location. New jump point. Rest stop Stanton and Lagrange Point. I'll read this. Addition of three additional rest stops at Stanton that act as the final stop before entering jump point. Each location is set similarly to all the other Lagrange points and consists of a parent gas cloud, a small child gas cloud, a gateway rest stop, and structures leading to the jump point itself. It is important to note that the jump points are currently non-functional in 321, as Stanton is the only available system at this time. The three new stations with jump points that leave the Stanton system are Pyro Gateway, Stanton and Pyro, Magnus Gateway, Stanton and Magnus, and Terra Gateway, Stanton and Terra. So I wanted to do that before I forget. But that was in 3.210. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think I was going to say I think it's very important that we do review that, because when these arrived in the P2U and then in live, people were very blown away. They went out there to see the jump point phenomena, to see the structures that lead up to the jump point, to see the stations. And, I am of the opinion that CIG is matured enough to not create rods for their own back. Right. So I think that in giving us these gateways, they're illuminating where we are certainly going sooner rather than later. We know about Pyro, but I am of the opinion that they would not have given us the Magnus and Terra gateways if they weren't something for us to consider as well. So
Thank you for that. Jade, how do you feel about that?
I vehemently disagree.
And why
Because
do you disagree?
because because they've even said the reason they gave us those was to have more places for the whole sea to be able to go dock and trade. So I do not believe that Terra is on the horizon, the immediate horizon. Let me put it that way. Um, just because it has this gateway station leading to it. But we'll see. Uh,
Hmm.
I feel that I don't want people to get their hopes up about Terra because it has a station. And
Jade, my hopes
yeah,
are up.
I
My
know
hopes are
yours
up.
are. I know yours are. And mine are too,
My
right?
hopes are
Because
all the way up.
well, mine are too, and I know Griff's are because that's where Origin's headquartered, right? So people that love Origin, they really want Terra. People that love Drake really want Magnus, right? Because that's
and
where the ships are made.
and what is it? Universalism? The
The
different political
Universalist,
groups.
yes,
Universalist? That's
uh,
Terra?
yeah.
Transitionalists.
The transitionalists are Terra,
Transitionalist. Yeah.
right?
So, well, real quick, describe. Well, I can look. You're going to get a lot to Peter, but go ahead and describe what those are real quick. But that's important to the to Terra. Well, yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Universal. Yeah.
So basically, there's two powerful systems, very powerful systems politically, not necessarily economically, but they are also economic powers. That's our solar system and the Terran system, right?
Right.
It's so in the whole scheme of the United Empire of Earth, you've got these three major parties: the Centralist Party, which is sort of like very old school, Earth centric in a way. You have the Transitionalist Party, and they were formed on Terra, and they support things like Terra becoming the capital of the UE rather than New York, on Earth being where the UE Senate is based. And then you have the Universalist Party, which is basically a party that supports measures for the expansion of government power and things like that. But in terms of Terra, that's not as much of an important party. The transitionalists are the important party on Terra.
Yeah.
In Terra.
So
It's Terra's and confusing because they named it after the planet Terra that they named because it's so much like Earth, right?
mhm.
Naturally, right? But then they named the whole system Terra, which kind of could be kind of confusing because do you mean the system? Do you mean the planet? So yeah.
Yeah, we're jumping around a bit, but yes, thank you for that description. But let's get back to the star map. We're gonna go to Power also and talk about this a little bit. So if we go to the control disk, click on this, and go to also. Now this is from a power, obviously, so this is connected to power. So some people may consider this to be on CIG's short list of new planets that are coming into the game. So this is the also system from the Galactopedia. I'll read this. So the also system is a Fairsense Act protected planetary system that consists of an F-type main sequence star, 3 terrestrial planets, 1 gas giant, 1 ice giant, 1 dwarf planet, and 1 dwarf planet, discovered in 2861 by an amateur explorer Errol Navis, who named it after his daughter. It seemed to be an excellent prospect for terraforming a young civilization, until a young civilization was detected, and also 2. Barred from the development plan, some surveying corporations leaked their planetary assessment findings to the press in an attempt to convince the public that it was the United Empire's Earth's duty to open the system. From these leaks, a popular movement formed in favor of uplifting the intelligent ocean. Ultimately, the Senate chose to invoke the Fair Sense Act and set up a permanent military station to keep the system safe from potentially unscrupulous visitors. And as you can see, it has a few planets. It has also 1, 2, 3, 4 Let me see if there's an 5 and 6. And it only has one, as far as I can see, one jump point. Yeah, also the pyro, so that is a dead end system. So anything else we know about also? Either of you?
Yeah. So people might remember way back when we had Levski in the game. One of the most profitable things to take your ship out and transport, it was illicit, were Osoian hides, right?
Hmm.
And those were literally the skins of this sentient species that inhabits this system that is protected by the Fair Chance Act, which is why they were illegal. So that was a gameplay thing that has to do with this system that we've had in the game. And the other thing is that this system, it looks like it would be a very high security system because there's a station there called OB Station Chimera, and that's the military station that's protecting that planet. So I kind of wonder if when we get this, well, you have to sort of have a high rep with the UE even just to get into the system, because it is a protected system.
And I was mistaken. It's not a
Yeah.
dead end planet. So then it had also the pyro, has also the callus, and also the caster. So my mistake.
Yeah, I was gonna say something, but I need to see eventually. So.
Yeah. We're gonna
It's
take that.
very interesting. It's very interesting that you have OB Station Chimera in the system, and you still have Osoian high trade. So there's a little corruption going on there, right? Because how do you get in and out?
Right.
Incompetence or corruption, right? Assume corruption.
Right.
But the question I had for you all was, language scientists are apparently interested in the Osoians because of how they communicate, and they communicate through flashes of color generated by the skin of their foreheads. Is that the portion of the Osoian hide that is traded? Is the forehead skin, and does that flash color through some other means? Is that how that works, Jade? I mean, it's all a nightmare, right? I'm glad the Fair Chance Act is in place, but I'm
Yes.
wondering if that's what the hides are for.
Yeah, like they don't say in lore, but just me speculating, I could see there being a market. Just like people like to wear fur of animals, even though we have fake fur that looks just and feels just as good, there's still people that want fur from an animal, right? I could see there being people that, for fashion reasons, want those Osoian hides to make whatever fashion that has bioluminescence, from these poor creatures that live on this planet that should be protected. And I wouldn't put it past some people in the UE military to be corrupt and kind of just wink, wink, look the other way, just because we know how the UE can be sometimes. All right, I'm letting my Levski bias come through. But yeah,
Wink,
this
wink
will
with
be
their
interesting.
hand out. Wink, wink with their hand out.
Definitely. Here, just pay me.
This is my first time hearing about this, so I just want to say, people are caught wearing these on their head. Would that make them have a 5 head instead of a 4 head?
Oh,
Moving on.
nobody did the joke, man.
First time you hear about it. First time you hear about it, we get a joke.
So I'm gonna bookmark Stanton so we can come back to this easily. But yeah, that is the also system. Now we're moving back to the Stanton system, and we're going back to pop to this, but we're going back to Pyro because we're going to visit a different system. Jump into Pyro, and this time we're going to visit Nyx. So let me see if I can find that real quick. Yeah, okay. There you go. Let me see if we can find it real quick. That's Castro. That's Tano. That's Stanton. It's always the last one, right? That's Terra. That's Hedridrian. I thought I had it easily marked so I can find these things, but I guess I got that. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Eventually, it's always the last one, right? So next, let me zoom out. And they give you a big picture of Nyx. And since this is Jade's home, Jade, will you be willing to read the first paragraph for Nyx system, please?
Absolutely. Nyx is an unclaimed planetary system situated at the border of an unusually dense and dark stellar cloud. It consists of an F-type main sequence star orbited by 3 planets and an asteroid belt. Due to the cloud's interference with navigational equipment, travel through the system is difficult and hazardous. The system's main settlement, Levski, located on a moon-sized asteroid in the Glacium Ring, is considered a haven for humans who wish to live beyond the reach of the United Empire of Earth laws.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna jump to Cap because I know Jade had a lot to say about this system. But Cap, how likely do you think this will be one of the first systems that they introduce after Pyro?
Well, I think it'll be very likely for a variety of reasons, some of which we'll talk about in terms of CIG's own language shortly. But the fact that we have had experiences on Delamar, the facts that we have had experiences at Levski, that there are a lot of the assets have been built out, for me, makes it easier for them to bring Nyx home. You combine that with jump point considerations, it's attached to Pyro. You combine that with economy considerations, having the economy that can run through there. The fact that it's unclaimed gives you a different take on lawless and lawful, or orderly and orderless, from Pyro, and some of the work that they've already done with planetary tech and asteroid tech, I think makes Nyx very, very, very likely to be early on in how we receive it. One of the questions I have for Jade is, Ceres in our own system, IRL, is one of the few spherical asteroids that I know about. Is it the case that asteroids get spherical as they get bigger, or should we expect Delamar to maybe have some non-spherical characteristics? How do you see that?
So I'm just going to give a really, really, really brief astrophysics lesson here. So yeah, you're right. When an asteroid is very, very large, there's this thing called hydrostatic equilibrium, right? And so that's what makes Ceres round. And there are other round asteroids, but that's the biggest. That's the largest. That was the first planet that got demoted from being a planet. It wasn't Pluto; it was Ceres. So Ceres says, "Hold my beer."
That's a whole other ball of wax we don't want to get into right now.
But anyway, it's a dwarf. It really is a planet. It's a dwarf planet, right? And so is Delamar. It's a dwarf planet. You can call it an asteroid. They call it a planetoid in lore sometimes. But the main thing is it is going to be round. It may be, well, if you remember how it used to be, and for people that don't know, when you approach Delamar, you would see that it's this big round thing, but it is pockmarked. It's got craters, and you can see that even though it's round, it's bumpy, right? It's right. So even though it's round, it's not as round, right, as other objects that you might visit in the Star City universe.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Jade, you want to watch the video first before we get into Nyx, or you want to talk about Nyx first?
We can watch the video first.
Okay, so Jade pointed out this is from a Star Station Live from a couple of years ago. Well, I can look.
2 years ago.
Yes.
Yep.
So yeah, Star Station Live. But they're discussing why Jade thinks Nyx may be up or coming when it comes to a new system and coming to the game. So here we go. A couple of minutes.
You mentioned Nyx. I'm not going to let you off from that. What can you tell us, if anything, about your work on Nyx?
Yeah, we did work on that. Like lots of work. Looks pretty good. It's like we still have to do like one final polish pass on it. But yeah, before server meshing isn't ready. Yeah, it's not us holding that back, I think.
Is Nyx being
sorry,
created?
is that too much?
No. Is
Okay.
Nyx being created with the same planet tech tools that are the other planets and moons are?
Yes. Yeah.
Is Nyx a perfectly round thing, or how does it differ? It seems like it might be different. Go ahead. If you say anything anybody gets mad at, they'll get mad at me, not you.
Are you asking about Delamar? So like
Yeah.
Nyx is a system, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm speaking of Delamar specifically.
Right. Yeah. Every now and then we get asked to see if we can't make a non-spherical planet. And we try, and then something breaks horribly, and then we say we can't. So I think it's going to be a little bit less spherical than it is right now, and it was Delamar was before. But it's not going to look like a potato, unfortunately.
Not with that.
I think we can stop there. But yeah, thank you for that link, Jade. So yes,
Yeah.
Jade, go ahead and regale us of stories about Nyx.
Wow. So I mean, there's stories that exist in lore, and then there's stories that we as gamers, as players, created for ourselves. And one of the things that people, sort of that have been around for a while remember were the Jumptown Wars. And so Jumptown Wars, of course, took place on Yella at Jumptown. But one of the other places they kind of happened were at Levski, which is on Delamar, which is technically in the Nyx system, but it was part of the Stanton system just for testing purposes. And so you would get to Delamar, you get there, and there might be people there trying to stop you from selling your drugs, because that was the most profitable run, was taking your drugs that you bought at Jumptown and going to Levski and selling them there. But another thing is, a lot of people I see every few months on Reddit, there'll be somebody that posts a picture or video of Levski or Delamar, and there's all this nostalgia about it. People really, really do miss Levski. And it's kind of funny because when they originally added it to the game, people used to call it Lagski because, just like when they add any new landing zone, any new city to the game, it's not optimized, right? But by the time it was taken out of the game, it ran super smooth, and it was very convenient. You'd come out your hab, and you weren't far from getting your ship or going outside. And so I think a lot of people miss that, and it'll be really interesting to see when we get it back. Because we have higher player counts now, what Nyx will be like. And I do believe this will be the next system we get after Pyro. And I would not be shocked if it wasn't very soon after Pyro, like 4.1 or 4.2. That's just me speculating, but that's because it was done.
Hot space opinion. Hot space opinion right there.
Yeah, space opinion. Exactly. My space opinion.
So I'm jumping around the system a bit. Jade, how many jump points does Nyx have?
Well, so it has quite a few, as you can see.
We can
there.
go through them if you want.
Yeah.
We can go through them.
Let's go through. Yeah, we got visuals. We can go through. So there's
so we got visual at the top right here.
Yeah,
got Pyro we just came from.
Yeah,
got Odin down here.
That's where Squadron 42 takes place. Is Odin?
That's where Odin. Yeah, thank you. That's good point. Thank you. Got Hill. Not familiar with that one. Got Castor.
Yes.
Got New Bremen. I'm sorry, Nyx Bremen.
Yes. And I believe that Castra could be another system that we get very soon after Pyro and Nyx. And the reason being is that people have wanted a high security system, right? And I think that's why a lot of people really want Terra. But Castra is the home of Castcom, which is a UEE military base. And so it's got very, very high security. But there's not much else in Castra, which would mean that they could probably add it a lot sooner than adding something like Terra. When you look at Terra, you'll see why. I mean, there's so much going on in Terra, but Castra is a high security system from what I can tell, and it doesn't have much else in it other than Castcom and a
what the Galactic Guide, not the Galactopedia, but the Galactic Guide says about Castra is, and I'll quote, it says, at this point, Castra is a prime destination for haulers looking to offload raw materials and leave with goods.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it makes it also a real economic node as they want to build out a minor economic loop with emerging systems. And then it says recently Castra's government has pushed to increase tourism in the attempt to diversify their industries. So that mountain that sits up above the clouds that you come into that was exclusively military, but now is commercial, industrial, is also tourism. It's also something to see, right, in a new system. So, but not as, to Jade's point, not as detailed as a full Earth-like Terra. So.
Yeah, and I just want to point out real quick that I went to the Castra system, and the first thing I noticed was how big the star is and how blue it is. So it was hard to almost zoom out from there. But yeah, I managed to get it out. But yes, Castra has quite a few jump points there. It had Castra the Nyx, we just came from, Hadrian, which we're going to go to. Well, yeah, I guess we can go to that later on in the show. I got also. We visited earlier. Oh yeah, and it's also connected to Pyro. So yeah.
Before we go off from Castra, I just want to say that if people want to see concept art of something in Castra, there's a concept art called the Sherman Outpost, and it's the one a lot of you may have remembered from like 2014 of the constellation coming in to this like big military base. So it's really great concept art, and I hope it looks like that when we get it.
And just really quick before we leave this system, you mentioned Toe Hill, said you don't know much about it. But the strength of a lot of these systems is how interesting the lore is. Toe Hill is the place where there are island-size foliages. So island-size almost flowers or plants that are coming out of the sea, upon which landing zones are built. That's how big they are.
Yeah.
So Toe Hill has a planet where that's happening, and that's, for me, that's very cool. Something to look forward to over the longer term.
Super cool.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, I was just looking at the Galactopedia entry for Castra, and unfortunately they don't show out of game or concept art on their site. But we might want to go to Wikipedia for Star Citizen.
Yeah, it's a Star Citizen Wiki Tools Wikipedia that has it.
Okay, so we just came from Nyx, right? So yeah, anything final for Nyx and Castra before we move on?
Nope, other than I really feel strongly that those will be after Pyro.
Okay.
I vehemently agree.
Yeah, I mean, after Pyro, I do feel strongly about Nyx because as people were saying in chat, it seemed like Pyro is mostly done as of 2 years ago, but they're just polishing it. So, and as you know, they've handed a bunch of our systems to Turbulent. So maybe they'll get that polishing done, and a lot of people are expecting Nyx to be right after Pyro, but we shall see. But I don't expect Terra or I personally I don't expect Terra or any other system coming soon to you after Nyx if it does come out next. Oh, right then. So let's go back to Stanton, and I had it bookmark this time, and zoom out, and then we're going to go to Magnus. So let me see if I can find Magnus real quick. There it is at the top. Click on there. By the way, I do recommend this site if you want to get the full experience. Make sure you have the sound turned on.
Yeah.
So Magnus, I think we go to top series. So give us the Galactopedia entry for Magnus, please. The first paragraph.
Sure. The Magnus system is a planetary system in the United Empire of Earth, or UEE. It was discovered in 2499 and subsequently selected as the headquarters of the UEE Navy. Once a center of a thriving industry centered around the UEE Navy's shipbuilding facilities, the system's economy crashed when the Navy moved their operations to Killian in 2631. though the system has entered a period of revitalization thanks to Drake Interplanetary establishing their headquarters and prime production facilities on Berea, its population is low compared to similarly aged systems in the UEE. It is made up of a Chthonian planet, a terrestrial planet, a gas giant, and a K-type star. I have no idea what a Chthonian planet is, but I hope Jade can tell us.
Oh, before
we'll
Jade
get to that.
before Jade gets going, I just want to say I should have looked at this before, but on the right side of the Galactic entry, it said discovered 2499 hours. Jump point of Stanton, Terra, and Ellis, and it has 3 planets. Now, if you go to Nyx for comparison, discovered in 2582, has Tohil, Odin, Pyro, Bremen, Castor, Virgil. So that is 6 jump points and 3 planets compared to 3 for Magnus and how many for Stanton? It has 3 connection points, as you know, for Stanton and 4 planets for Stanton. So compare all that. Okay, go ahead, Jade.
So I'm going to make it really super simple. Imagine a gas giant like Jupiter or Crusader in the game, but imagine it is right up next to its star and it's got its atmosphere stripped away through a process which is called hydrodynamic escape. And that just leaves basically a rocky or metallic, in that case, core that would sort of resemble a terrestrial planet, but it wasn't initially that. And how do you get a big gas-like planet next to a star? There's a thing called planetary migration that's real, and it comes from tidal forces. When a planetary system is formed, sometimes planets migrate, and they can basically knock each other around. And that happened in our own solar system. Luckily, we didn't have a Jupiter ending up right next to our star, but some systems do in real life.
Interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. So how to go with Cat first? How likely do you think this will be coming up on research systems after Pyro and Nick, probably?
Well, again, I'm still holding on to the fact that, yes, in the short term, those jump points serve all seas, but I think they're also instructive as to where we're going. So I think they're going to come after the easy stuff, right? We've got a lot of stuff built out for Pyro. We've talked about Pyro. We had the road to Pyro. Pyro's coming. Nyx is probably the next, but next to Odin. But Odin is sort of a Squadron 42 thing. Nyx is probably the most built out system. And then Agnes is another jump point that we have from our main system. So I anticipate it coming. I think that it is, it leads to other systems that I think are going to be on the roadmap to 1.0 that we'll talk about later in our predictions. But I think that, some of the jump points that you see here out of Magnus are very instructive for systems that I think are coming sooner than we might think. And so, I think Magnus is right in the mix there after Pyro and Nyx.
Okay. And how do you feel about that, Jade?
I tend to agree. I think that's very, very sound reasoning. And there's a lot of good reasons to add Magnus after Pyro and Nyx. Except I think we'll get Castor before Magnus, but who knows? Maybe we'll get them together. Maybe we'll get them together. Who knows?
Why do you think Castor before Magnus?
Just because there's less there.
No, easy to make.
It's easier. Yeah, it's easier to make, and so therefore it's an easy win for CIG to add another system quickly.
All right. Yeah, interesting. So taking a look at it, as you say, Magnus Terra, Magnus Stanton, and Magnus Ellis. So I think, from here we're going to go to Terra. And by the way, on the star map, they denote different jump points as large, small, and medium. The first set were the small jump point, and the second set were the medium jump point, but now we're taking the large one. I just wanted to point that out. We don't know if CIG has changed their mind about this stuff. They talk about they may be iterating, not iterating, but they may be changing their mind about how jump point sizes affect ships and which ships can go in different size jump points. Like they would consider they used to consider a large to be constellation size and up. and the medium would be maybe freelancer size or something like that, and small would be snub and single fighters ships. But that might be changing, so don't take that as gospel. It only constantly change. I wanted to bring that up. And this is terror, and we already talked about a bit of terror, especially with the political movement. So let's go with Jade first. Jade, can you give us a rundown on terror, please?
Sure. The Terra system is a planetary system in the United Empire of Earth made up of a mesoplanet, one terrestrial planet, 2 super Earths, and 1 G-type star named Terra Nova. Located at the nexus of 7 jump points, the system was first charted in Standard Earth year 2516 as part of Project Far Star. It was quickly colonized upon the discovery that the third planet was naturally habitable and that the other planet was located in the green band. The lush and resource-rich planet Terra 3, or Terra, which is Terra 3, became a hub of trade and culture, eventually growing in population and prominence to the point that its government was able to maintain a progressive stance even under the rule of the Messers. It continues to be one of the most influential systems in the UE. The Transnationalist Party, based on Terra, believes that the system should be the center of human government. And there's another political movement, by the way, in Terra that is sort of against that idea. They actually are they're a Terra Independence Party, where they don't want Terra even in the UE. I just thought that was
separatist movement.
yeah, the separatist movement. So that's another thing going on in Terra as well politically, but they have no power. They're not in the government or anything.
I wanted to address a couple of points that people made in chat. Gladstone said that isn't the system map or mass system getting a rehaul? Some systems will change per CIG. Yes, that's what I'm trying to refer to. So don't take everything as gospel, or don't take everything as set in stone, because CIG is still iterating on some stuff. So what I just said about the jump point sizes will probably change. And yes, so thank you for that.
So there's a question in chat I want to address real quick. The mesoplanet, I think that's what they're talking about. They said are planets rare in SC. Implanets, we're not talking about like the Star Trek implanet, which is basically any habitable planet, sort of like Earth. An implanet here is a mesoplanet. And a mesoplanet is basically planets that have planetary mass that are smaller than Mercury, but larger than Ceres. So it's literally the smallest actual planet that you can get before you're talking about a dwarf planet.
And George Cattle stated, I think the Connie is the biggest medium ship. We can use a small Stargate, or jump gate, I'm pretty sure they meant. Like I said, my information is out of date. This was probably when they first talk about not first, but the last time that they had a major discussion about the jump gate. So quite a few years ago, from what I recall. So like my information is pretty sure to be out of date. So you may be more on point with that about that.
I was trying to find it for this show, but CIG made a statement saying don't hold on too tight and fast to the jump point sizes. They plan on revisiting that anyway. And that's been the extent to which they've discussed it. There's been a lot of speculation since then. But that's all they've said, which means they could come back to the framework or they could abandon it entirely or something in between. We have no idea at this point.
We have no idea. Thank you. So, yes. By the way, if people have questions, go ahead and submit questions using the click button and submit your questions so we can get to do the Q&A. So, like I said, if you have a quick question in chat, that's fine too, but we may miss it. So, just letting you know. But back to Terra. Discovered in 2516. Had jump point connecting to Gauss, Hadrian, Magnus, Tyros, Panthen, Tyrannus, and Tyre. So that's 7. And has 4 planets. So yeah, there's quite a few. I mean, that's one of the reasons why they decided to settle in Terra, because it has so many jump points. Right.
So there's something in game from one of those systems that you just mentioned, Tyrannus. It is the Broken Moon system in Arena Commander. So when you play the Broken Moon map, that's Tyrannus. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another reason culturally why you can imagine that folks that are in this system see themselves as more central than our Sol system, right? Because our Sol has 2 known jump points and Terra has 7, right? So Terra feels more central, integral to all the comings and goings around the UEE than Sol might be naturally, just from a jump point standpoint. So.
Thank you for that. Good point. Hawkwood asked, "What's the easiest way to get into Star Citizen lore?" There's so many answers to that. YouTube, Wikipedia, Wikipedia.
I would begin with the Lore Maker's Guide to the Galaxy. Jade answered the question well here. Take a look at Jade's answer in the chat.
There you go.
Yeah,
Paul's
both of
historian.
those.
Yeah. There you go. So yeah, Terra. Some of you may know I consider Terra to be my home, and this is where I plan. I mean, even though it may not be lucrative financially, but it'll be safer, I hope, to settle in Terra than other systems. So I consider to be Terra my home. I forgot the transition list. The party, but you know, it's been a while since I've talked about that. But yeah, I'm interested in Terra. Terra has some pretty cool concept art too. It's not on the Galactipedia, but also you should be able to find it on Google or the wiki.
So I got a question for you though about your location of your Banu Merchantman.
Okay.
So you're not going to do much business, like you said, in Terra. But if you were to locate it in Magnus, which has a jump point to Terra and a jump point to the Ellis system, which is where Green is, which if you also play Arena Commander, that's where the Murray Cup takes place on the planet Green in the Ellis system. 2 very beautiful places to visit tourist-wise, but you got to go through Magnus. Wouldn't you want to put your Banu Merchantman in Magnus?
Well, since you said that, that's gonna be a popular place now. No, I'm kidding. Like I said, this is before, you know, this is alpha, beta.
Yeah.
My thoughts, but you know, I'm open-minded to where I'm selling, but you know, someone close to Terra is basically what I mean.
Got it.
Yeah, I'd like to settle on Terra as well, but only if I can base build, because what I'm hoping to do is to build something equidistant from Prime, Quasi, and New Austin, and work with others to build out a new community. I'm hoping to call it Neo Philly or New Philadelphia. But I can't base build on Terra, then I may hold out for to go all the way back to RSI, because I'm an RSI guy, to RSI's home, which you know is Sol. So
I will pass through Terra on my way to go party in the Goss system. If you know, you know. That's all I'm gonna say. Ryza from Star Trek. In Star Citizen, it's in the Goss system.
Yeah, Cap, you bring up a great point talking about base building. See, I'm not sure if Terra will be available for players to base build on, but then again, it could be available to us because it's so big. And you know, I mean, they said that, you know, even if they were to, if our accounts were to, not our account, but our active accounts were to have a base or like a 4x4, 8x8 land claim, it wouldn't take up a moon in Star Citizen. So I'm pretty sure Terra probably had the space, but I don't know if they'll let us. Or maybe it'll be reputation based. Who knows?
Or maybe the taxes will be too high to do it, right? It might not be feasible early on. So interesting.
Might want to do something later on. Or maybe an org can do it. But yeah. Good thoughts. I didn't even think about it. I mean, I've always considered that Terra probably be off limits to players, but you brought up an interesting point because it's a super Earth. So it has space.
Yep, and it's a naturally habitable super Earth, which those are somewhat rare in the Star Citizen. Most planets are terraformed. Terra wasn't.
And it has a station right beside it. Let me see if I can highlight it real quick. Trying to click on it, but it's not. Oh, there it is. Got to right click. Information. This is IAS Hammett. Right in orbit around Terra. And let me see if I can Good information about this. Yeah, just Terra 3. This is Terra Prime is what they consider it. Landing zone.
The city's called Prime.
Okay. No, but it had more than just this one landing zone, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's got New Austin, which is where Origin is headquartered. It's also
Snob Central, also known as Snob Central.
Yeah, exactly. And what's the space cow called?
Quasi.
The Quasi.
Oh, sorry.
The Quasi, yeah, something like that.
Exactly.
No, just say space cow. One of us. You said space cow first today.
I said it just to joke with you, but yeah. So Quasi is another city that's on Terra as well. So you got Prime, you got New Austin, you got Quasi. That's 3 big cities just on one planet.
And every planet, and I think every planet in Terra has a name. It's not like called Terra 1 or Terra 2. It's much like Stanton. They all have names on them, as far as I can tell.
They don't.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Arrow, Pike, Terra, and Jen.
Yeah, they do have names, but like they don't have the moons and stuff for them yet.
Okay, so here's the location.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, Terra's gonna be a place. Well, Jay thinks Goth's gonna be a place to party, but I think Terra will be it'll be more snobbish maybe.
It depends on what kind of party you're talking about.
Yeah, thank you. You gotta dress up, black tie.
Yeah. That's definitely where you're gonna do your make sure that you definitely look nice when you're gonna party there.
Alrighty then. So then we have so Terra and Pyro. So yeah. Alright, so I think it's time for a commercial break. Right at the top of the hour, a couple of minutes past a couple of hours. So let's go do the commercial break and come back with more Soul Citizens. We'll be back right after these messages. Oh, just in time, I think.
So if you're a subscriber, you are just going to get us yakking for the next minute. But we wanted to also say thank you for being a subscriber and supporting the channel and supporting the work of Soul Citizens. You can become a soul. What is it? Soul bro, soul sis,
soulmate. Yeah, soul bro, soul sis, and soulmate. Click the join button below on YouTube. That's what I say every week.
Yeah,
and you can also support us on Patreon too. We support. We appreciate every support that we can get. And you can also buy merchandise. I'm wearing a Soul Citizen shirt. You can't really see it, right? The logo down there. But yeah. Appreciate all the support people give it. And Gladestone, you asked a question. I'm going to address that when we get back from the break.
Oh, I found out. Mesoplanet was coined by Isaac Asimov.
Oh, nice.
Jade first.
Yeah.
What was that?
Oh no, I just was looking and I found out that the term mesoplanet was originally coined by Isaac Asimov, the famous science fiction author. Yeah.
Well, okay. Cool. Gladestone, to your question you're asking where Griff is, he's out celebrating. I'll let him decide whether or not he wants to tell us what he's celebrating, but yes, he should be in momentarily soon to him. But yeah. All right. So yeah, okay. So I did jump ahead a bit. I'm supposed to do this now, but we already addressed this early in the show. But the new three new jump stations. Three new stations with jump point. The Pyro Gateway, Magnus Gateway, and Terra Gateway, and we went through it before. Okay, so I already read that. So yeah. So let's get into predictions. So. Each panelist shared their prediction of 2 to 6 possible systems that will launch by 1.0. So yeah, let's go with our Cap. What are your predictions?
All right, so I'm going to go from the easiest predictions to the most outlandish, but all of them have rationale. And then I have arguments that I want to make. We know that we're getting Pyro. I think by 1.0, we will also get Castra. And I've come around to Castra. I didn't think that early on, but Jade has convinced me. We're going to get Magnus for the reasons I've named. We're going to get Nyx. And I think that's it by 1.0.
1.0.
Those are the things I would put money down on, right? Terra I want, but I think Terra will be on the roadmap after 1.0. Or Terra might be the culmination of 1.0. Might. Right. Other things that are sort of dark horses for me include Odin, because 1.0 will, I believe, be after the launch of Squadron 42. And it'll be a relatively built-out system with an interesting feature in the coil that Squadron 42 players will have experienced that could come to the PU. And Jade stole a little bit of my thunder earlier on with some of the Arena Commander additionals. Tyrannus, which is Broken Moon, and Ellis, which is Murray Cup. We go to the planet Green and Ellis. So some of those assets are already being built because they're in Arena Commander. And what's interesting about Tyrannus is that it's connected to Terra and Ellis jump point wise. And what's interesting about Ellis, beyond the Murray Cup, which would be a place for racers as a community, right, is that it's connected to Magnus and Tyrannus, right? So some of the systems that are on our minds already, this would be sort of the next level out. And then way out there for me are the next three, and I'll be done very quickly. Kano, because Cartania in the Kano system would be a place to launch science and research gameplay. And I'm struggling with the 1.0 that doesn't have any of that. And then you have Davian, Cestulus, the Cestulus planet, which is the home of Aegis HQ. And if you have those, then you can get to Sol, which I think will be. I'd love for them to put a team. The way they put a team on a ship for a year, I'd love for them to put a team on Sol for a year. They know, because we know so much about Sol, that they got to pass muster. Jay's not going to let them slip on Sol, right? But I would ask them, the last thing I'll say is I would ask them to switch or to add a landing zone. I don't imagine 930 years from now that New York, Moscow, and Shanghai, the current powers in the world, are going to be the powers then. Right? That's almost 1,000 years from now.
Yeah.
Right? So I'd ask them to put a landing zone in Africa, right? Like Johannesburg,
Definitely.
Dar es Salaam, Nairobi, Lagos, Hamaguir, or New Cairo City, which is the headquarters of the African Space Agency.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, definitely.
So
Sun Ra in the house.
Yeah, there you go. Right? Let's go. Right? So I'd like to see CIG potentially imagine a little bit more broadly what space and landing zone and intergalactic trade and commerce and tourism, how it might progress on the Earth in 930 years from now, and not just have 3, I think, typical landing zones, but maybe add another one that's in a space that might imagine that African peoples of the world, or maybe South American peoples of the world, might progress and have landing zones as well in the global South. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's me.
Absolutely agree.
Real quick, you said Koshar, right? Or did you say something else? What was connecting to
I didn't say Kroshar. I went the other way with Davian.
Davian. Let me see if I can find that.
Yeah.
Davian to Kano.
There it is.
It's a direct line from Stanton to Sol through Magnus, Ellis, Killian, and then Davian. And now you're at the Sol jump point.
I'm going to look at Davian real quick, because we haven't really addressed that. But yeah, that's it. That's a good point. You're making a line to Sol. So yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. Because you can, but I don't see CIG making a game without having Sol or Terra in there, or maybe one or the other, but definitely. I mean, it's tough because you want to have Sol because it's a sense of familiarity, But Terra may be more fun because it's not familiar and people can explore it. So maybe both at 1.0 because we don't know when 1.0 will be. We don't know how much of this stuff they're working on this. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
So if you go Soul to Davian, you go Davian to Kano, you go Kano to Pyro. So you're there.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that those things are in the larger plan, but depending on how fast they go is how confident or not confident I am on what's happening around 1.0. 1.0 is a big deal, right?
Right.
What's great about Soul is if done well, it can also be the repository of the history of the progression of the United Nations of Earth to the United Planets of Earth to the United Empire of Earth. You can go to Mars and see the history. You could go, like they could take, hey, there's Griff.
Oh,
He's not
you
in.
could go and
he's not
see
in
those
Discord yet,
things.
here he is.
There he is.
There he is. Yeah. But you could go and see those things, and they could make Soul the repository for the history of this all the lore here, right?
Yep, and Stella Fortuna takes place at Port Renatus on Mars. Like that was where its origin was. So it would be cool if every year, they had a big gathering there. Players go there to celebrate.
We all get drunk.
Yeah, we all get drunk. Exactly. On green beer. Yeah.
That's right.
So I want to say welcome, Griff. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Meet yourself in OBS, please. Thank you. Yeah, people are wondering where you've been. I've been saying that you've been celebrating. I don't know if you want to say where you've been.
Who's wondering about where I've been?
You're still doubling for me. You didn't mute yourself?
I'm muted. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
I can do it. There you go. There we go. Thank you.
Sorry about
So,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just been a busy day.
So we're going on predictions now. That's where we are. But I wanted to go Jade before we get to Griff. So, Jade, what are your predictions for 2 to 6 possible systems that were launched by 1.0?
Right. So I am almost in total agreement with CaptainSeriousFun. But I'm going to go in a different direction just because I agree with him too much as far as what would be kind of logical. I'm going to say, what if instead of them wanting us to get closer to the solar system, and I do think the solar system will be something they do way after 1.0. I don't want to get hyped about visiting Earth in 1.0. I don't think that's even in the cards. But we do have systems from Squadron 42 potentially. And so I would say, it makes sense to go to Pyro, obviously. Nyx, obviously, it was done 2 years ago. It gives people a place that isn't completely lawless. Nyx, for people that don't know, has a government, at least on Delamar, run by the People's Alliance. So there will be laws in Nyx. It's not gang run like Pyro is, right? It's not a free for all. There's an actual working government there. Then from there, Nyx connects to Odin, which is in Squadron 42. And so I'm thinking, that's an easy one. They've done the work, at least on the assets that are in Squadron 42. How much beyond that is just, we don't know. That would be speculation. So then I'm thinking, well, if you got Nyx and you've got Odin, where do you, where can you go, right? So Vega is also connected to Nyx. And, Squadron 42 has the attack on Vega, or at least...
Right.
Yeah, that you know more about that probably than I do, fastcart. But that was like a big deal at one point. And I know that you bring up, was it called Operation Pitchfork?
Yes.
Right? So explain what
briefly,
Operation Pitchfork is. Yeah.
Yeah, real briefly, Operation Pitchfork, they came up with this almost a decade ago. The idea is during beta or the end of beta, it's not a spoiler because it's in the lore. The Vandals attack Vega. So the idea of Operation Pitchfork is for the players to get band together and to take back Vega from from the Vandal. That's supposed to be like the last day of beta before 1.0, or the game goes live. That's the idea. But this is a player-run event, not something officially run by CIG. But CIG has supported it because they made a Pitchfork skin for us in the store. So yes, that is the idea of Operation Pitchfork. We don't know if it's really gonna happen because we can't really do it without Vega. But yeah.
Right. And you can't get to Vega from Nyx unless you go through Bremen. So that would be my other system that I would throw in. It would be amazing. We've not heard much about it, but why would you not want to go to the ship museum that's in Bremen that is run by the CEO of Consolidated Outland, Silas Kroner? So that would be kind of a kind of cool attraction to go and see. He's got a Mark I Zeus in it. He's got other stuff in it. It would be a good tourist attraction. Bremen is also sort of like the breadbasket of the UE. There's a lot of farming in there. So maybe when we get to farming gameplay in the game, you might want to set up in Bremen.
Or you might go to Bremen to get farming resources. Right.
Exactly. So that's why I'm going in that direction, because I'm thinking if they want to push us towards the Vandal, then Stanton, Pyro, Nyx, Bremen, Vega. There you go. Now you're almost in Vandal space. And I'm gonna still throw in Castra.
So how many systems is that, Joy?
Stanton, Pyro, Nyx, Bremen, Vega.
So 5 systems. Plus Castro. Plus Castro is 6.
Because you said 6, so that's how that's the 6. That's the 6 that that's my alternative 6, but my first 6 are the same as CaptainSeriousFun.
Okay. Cool. All right, Griff, the floor is yours for a prediction.
If you don't mind me asking, I missed Cap's predictions. Cap, can you run me past yours real quick?
So, we're gonna have Pyro, I think Magnus, I think Castra and Nyx, I think Terra and Odin. And then I went Tyrannus and Ellis because they're in Arena Commander, and so assets are being built out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went Kano and Davian because I want them to build out in the direction of Soul.
Okay. But those first ones are the ones I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with those first ones that you gave me because I know you're expanding out. So I'm going to go with those. I'm going to say that I agree with everything that Cap said and everything that Jade said. I think it could be any of those, to be honest with you. I think they're all very promising systems. And since I wasn't here earlier, I'm going to try to say my thing very quickly. I think it could be any combination of those. I was one in the early days. I remember, I wasn't the only person who said this, but when we first got 3 was a 2-2-2-1 when they put in the jump gates, the different gates there for Pyro and Magnus and for Terra. One of the things I said was, why did CIG do that when it wasn't necessary? We knew Pyro was something that was coming, and so installing that into the system everybody would have been cool. In fact, everybody would have been cool. It would have been like, oh, we're finally moving toward Pyro. But the fact that they put Terra in and Magnus in, there was no need to do it. At least I don't see it. Now, maybe there's a need for them, but right now they're just 2 stations. And so it's like, why did they put those in? When I looked at the routing for those 3 systems, including Stanton, I saw that one, they all connected to each other in some form, including if we were to throw Nyx in. They're all, if CIG wants to move to economy 1.0 or 2.0, and we want to start being able to create a loop for economy, that's a good start. Magnus is a smaller system, so it's not a big deal to go there. Terra, on the other hand, is a much larger system that offers a lot of other stuff. Now, mind you, Terra is a big system. There's a lot there. But if they wanted to create areas of gameplay for somebody who wants and I'm talking about people entering into the game, people coming in brand new. And like right now, we picked 4 planets to come into the game on. I started saying, well, what happens if we're coming in 4 systems or 3 systems? One system being Lawless, being Pyro, another system that's much more somewhere in between, like a Stanton, a place that's much more orderly, like a Terra, and then someplace like a Nyx that's kind of outside of the UEE, has its own rules, but operates a little bit differently. That gave great balance for the type of gameplay that people, if they came into the game, could do. Now, that was my initial feeling about why maybe they put those other gates in. because I see an economic loop. I see a loop for people to enter into the game with finding some place of where they want their home to be. But at the same time, all the places that Jade and Captain suggested, I think are all just as viable. Now I'll give you my radical prediction. And this is the one that, this is super radical. The super radical one is that everything we're doing right now is to test. It's for the purpose of testing. Alpha is about concept. It's about, let's see what happens. Let's throw it on the wall and see where things go. Let's see what really works, both within the structure of Chris's vision as well as what the community is looking for. If they wanted to, this is my radical piece, they could do none of the systems that we currently are familiar with and put us in all brand new systems that we've never been in. That would equal the scales for everybody. People who've been here 12 years, people who've been here 12 days. Everybody starts on the same keel. The advantage of us old folks is that we know how to do the game. But exploration, finding things and everything would be fresh for us, just like it would be fresh for somebody who's brand new coming into the game. So there's a question to me about whether or not Pyro and Stanton are just testing grounds, because first of all, you guys have heard me say this before. I don't believe they're sitting around waiting to build systems. I think systems are built. They're just not in the game because the technology has not allowed for it to happen. I would not be surprised if CIG decided to drop 5 systems that we have not talked about, or the ones that you guys have talked about, right? Because we haven't been to those places, and put that loop in, like Jade was saying, and they drop it all in, and we say go, and everybody starts equal as far as information, all that other stuff. Nobody's been there 20 times. Nobody knows the specific route. We all have to learn together, new and veteran players. So for me, that's the radical prediction for me. That's really out there, but if CIG did that, I actually would like it. I would actually like it. And when I finally got to Stanton, I'd have some familiarity with it. But for new players coming in, I think, and old players, I think that balance would be great. There was something you said, Jade, about Nick's. Oh, let me say this about the invasion, because I know a lot of people are itching for the Operation Pitchfork thing. I also see, because this is a long-term project, that getting to Van Duel is not important. What's important is the Van Duel getting to us. Because the lore of the Van Duel is that they're encroaching, that they're invading us. It's not about us going to them. It's about the fact that they're coming to us. So dynamic events could happen with the Van Duel, even though we don't have a pathway to get to them. But there could be something that's created that allows invasion, dynamic events to happen, like they're coming in and we have to push back in certain systems. And then eventually over time, so that we strengthen and lengthen out this whole process of the final battle with the Van Duel, it happens later. Because if you think that we can get to the Van Duel on day one, what do you think people are going to do? Day one, they're all going to go shoot out the Van Duel space, right? But no, let it be where they're, we're getting used to our land, and all of a sudden we hear about some attack or some Van Duel ships that are seen. Let it be through a portal that pops in out of nowhere, right? That doesn't directly connect to them right away, but it's temporal, and they come in through that and they go back through that, and let those dynamic events heat us up over a period of time, weeks, maybe months, maybe even years. And then as we finally start to spread out further and we get there through our own exploration and finding, we find the Van Duel organically, not because it was set up in the very beginning and there's immediate access to it. So that's my 2 cents. And I know I talk long, but those are my pitches on it. But I like everything that Cap and Jake said.
No, that's cool. Thank you for that.
The only other thing I would add is you have Shutescottle in the chat, who said something that I think we all need to always keep in mind. And that is, they talked about Chris Roberts' previous games. Right? And Shutescottle says, Star Citizen is the big version of Conquest Frontier Wars, Chris Roberts' first game. It says, I played that game and we were able to travel to every star system via wormholes. I think that where we'll end up, both for the period between 4.0 and 1.0 and 1.0 itself. Ooh, I dropped my cup. I was so excited. Is that can be what Chris Roberts has done before will inform that, right? And we don't have time during this show to get into all that, but what we saw in Wing Commander, what we saw in Freelancer, what we saw in Conquest Frontier Wars, all the way back to that first Digital Anvil game that Aaron Roberts ran for him. is instructive in what we're going to see in his magnum opus of Star Citizen. So I think that's a great point. Thanks for saying it.
Yeah. I have to give a shout out to Colossal, who said we're going to see the kingship and it's going to be called an eviction. I love that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the follow, prospect. I'm trying to pronounce that word. There were a couple of follows before, but I missed them, so I'm so sorry about that. But yeah, thank you for the support to the Soul Citizen. I have an issue. I'm supposed to go last. I didn't see this prediction part because I was trying to get the show ready. I didn't see it. I didn't do my homework. But I will say, like next madness. Everyone here make more sense than any kind of sense I'm going to make. I'm hoping for Terra. Hoping for Odin because Odin to me makes sense because it's Squadron 42. So I'm not really going in any kind of line or, route or anything like that. These are the top off my head. I am hoping for Vega because, like you said, I put Operation Pitchfork. But what Griffin makes a great point. Maybe Operation Pitchfork could just simply be the Vandal encroaching on a system that they already have in place by the time that 1.0 happened. So that would be something. My pie in the sky really probably going to be the solar system by 1.0. I mean, solar system has to be something that they get right because I see a lot of players heading to Soul right off the bat just to check it out and see how their vision of 930 years in the future with Soul will look like. Like I particularly am interested in seeing Soul.
In 930 years, all those same planets that exist today will still be there. So it's not so much they want to go to Soul to see what Soul looks like. It's they want to go to Earth to see, can I find where I live?
Exactly. They want to see if I can go to New York and buy a hot dog, right?
Exactly.
Double dog.
No.
Double dog.
I doubt CID is going to do that for many reasons. One of which is the scale of the planet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, landing spines will come back.
Yeah, that's one thing we haven't discussed. Like the scale of the planet isn't 1-to-1 in Star Citizen. I want to say it's like third of the size of a typical planet. Am I right about that?
We've got 1/6 for the. Is it 1/6? 1/6 and 1/10. I'm trying to remember.
1/6 and 1/10. Okay, so
right. So stars are 1/6 and the planets are 1/10, I believe.
1/10. Right. So it's like if you get a planet that's the 1/10 the size of Earth, that's still a lot of land that they get to fill out. So yeah. But yeah, I'll be interested in exploring Soul, especially just sitting a probe to Uranus. But I'm interested in seeing Soul.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, you knew it was coming. It wouldn't be a show without me if I didn't make that one joke. But at least I made it at the end. Tim Griffin was here, so he can look disappointed. But yeah, that's my prediction. So just to recap: Nyx Magnus, Terra Odin, Vega, and Soul. So yeah. Okay. We have been asking for people to ask questions. We'll be answering questions throughout the show, really. So people have been asking questions. But I do want to say we have one from German Wrecker. What would your prediction be if CIG chooses to use placeholder jump points that don't necessarily connect the system, like the rejected ARC format? What would your prediction be? So, excuse me, let me copy that and put it in the chat so people can see what he's saying. What would your prediction be if CIG chooses to use placeholders jump point that don't necessarily connect like projected? Like I think they just want to know what jump point placeholder you think CIG will make by 1.0. I mean, they can make all the placeholders they want to, really.
I don't understand the question completely, so you have to help me out.
I think I do.
You know how right now they have a placeholder jump point for Nyx and a placeholder jump point for Terra. I think they're asking what future placeholder jump points you think they'll have in the future.
I think it may be more like this. Like, remember how we had Delamar in Stanton, right? Because they needed us to test it, and I think they're thinking along the lines of what placeholder jump points would they put in for us to test other systems that have things that
Oh,
they need to test, maybe.
I'm not so sure they do placeholders. I think they're just going to build out.
I
That's
do
just
too.
me. I
I
think
do
that
too.
once they've done it, I mean, we're doing rinse and repeat after a certain point.
Yeah.
The technology and stuff. I mean, there's some advances they can do, but the need for placeholders. Let's go by what Chris Roberts said. Chris Roberts says that when he gets to 1.0, he wants the game to be what was the word he used? He wanted it to be commercially viable, that players will continuously come back to. Playable. This is not testing anymore. When we're at 1.0, we've moved past testing. It's a commercial release at that point. Now, unless they decide to come up with some label like early access, which I doubt they would do, I think that once we're there, it's a matter of building out at that point and introducing some new things. But the alpha dynamic of testing where placeholders and things are put in, I think we're beyond that when we get to 1.0. But everybody else can give me their 2 cents on what you guys think about that.
I would
Okay,
go with
so-
the.
so-
Oh, go ahead.
So, just real quick, I just want to say Joe American said that is what they were trying to ask, so I missed it. So go ahead. Thank you.
Okay.
No, I was
Go
going to say
ahead.
I would not.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead, Jade.
Okay, so I'm going to go with, CIG, they want us to test things. They also want really cool things, right? And so I'm looking at where their planetary tech is going and what we saw at CitizenCon, previous CitizenCons, about where they're going with, planets with unique features, and perhaps even using machine learning trained on our solar system to give us a new type of planet with, unique features. And I then go back to the lore and I look at a place like the Helios system, which has a planet called Tangaroa, which is an ocean world, but it's got
Mhm.
all these volcanoes which are creating islands, right? So it's
please
got
hold. Please hold.
yeah.
I think the stream has stopped.
Oh,
Hold on a
no.
sec.
Not on Twitch, it hasn't.
on
It's still
Twitch it
going on
hasn't.
Twitch. Okay, so just my end. Okay, go ahead. Fine. Just my end isn't good.
So I'm using Tangaroa as an example type world that does not exist. We don't have any worlds with volcanoes yet, like actual magma volcanoes creating landmass. And so maybe to test out something like that, I could see them adding a temporary jump point to the Helios system. So if you want to look at where they might do that, look at systems that have very unique features, unique planets that we do not currently have the tech for now.
Let me say this too,
Yeah,
real
I
quick,
think
Cap,
that's a
before you
great
jump
point.
in. Cap, before you jump
Yeah.
in. The other thing too is I don't want you guys to misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm saying when we're in the release mode, that's release. There are games that still will run a PTU, a testing server, to test out things, but whether or not they're going to put in a fake system in the release version and then at some point or later change it again, that's what I'm saying I don't think would be the case. If they want to test something, they'll run it in a PTU server, and then when it goes live, that's it. Okay, that's
Yeah.
what I want to make sure I'm clear about that. Go ahead, Cap. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I think that's that's a great point as well. When I hear the question, my response is more along the lines of that I anticipate that there's going to be a matrix or a mix of system characteristics that are going to have CIG going to the easiest system to build out. And when I say easiest, the easiest mix of they already got to jump point to another system that's in the game to test not planetary systems, but to test out gameplay systems, right? So to Jade's point, for example, where is it easier to test high sec a high sec system? Is it easier at Castra, which really has Sherman to build out, or is it easier at Terra, which is Earth-like, right? Which eventually you got to get to Earth-likes because you got a couple of them in the world, particularly like the ocean worlds that are more Earth-like, more oceany. But if you want to test out the systems around what high security means, you might go to Castra first before Terra, right? If you want to test out, Vanduul gameplay, right? You might build out a system like Vega, right? That's close to the Vanduul. There's contention around the system, but I think the systems that they're going to build out are going to be the first place that they can test out the gameplay that system in part or in whole represents, right? Is there a vacation location versus a vacation world where they can test out what it means to go on vacation, right? So whatever the smallest, most convenient version of the system is, I think that's what they'll build out. And then you'll see it writ large on the other systems that maybe are known for that.
All right. Thank you for that. And yeah, that was the only question we have that came in from me. Yeah, I'm having some technical issues with my Windows over here. Oh, we do have another question. just from here. So we do this real quick. Currently, this is from Miss Cloud. Currently, we have the corporate roles in Stanton, and they don't recall if there was ever a mention about pure academic scientific research-based world like Terminus and the Foundation series. Ooh, that's a good question. Jade,
So,
does
yeah,
anyone know anything about that one?
Oh,
Well,
yes. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mentioned earlier the Kano system and the Cartania world. Part of the reason I raised that as an example of where scientific or research gameplay comes in, and I don't know, fastcart, if you can pull it up, but it is an underwater ecology in the Cartania, Carteyna, right? Cartey. T as in
P as in what?
T as in Tom.
Oh, Arcania? Nope.
Well, it's the Kano system, right? Cano. But the planet Kano 2, excuse me, is known as Cartania. And what's interesting about that and other planets is that it was placed under the Fair Chance Act, right? They've minimized the human population there. Well, what does that mean for me? That means for me that I can imagine research and scientific missions that we could get to become part of that group for the purpose of conducting science and research in ways that where mission success and mission failure is the level to which intrusive, right? With regard to the microscopic organisms in the early phases of life in Cartania's oceans, right? That we're gleaning data through some gameplay features and gameplay mechanisms, but we're not messing with the life that's there because of the Fair Chance Act. So I feel like there are lots of examples like that. If you look at the lore of lots of planets and systems, not just Fair Chance planets, but other ones as well. Hades, the Hadesian culture, which is a group of sentient beings that are gone now, but left behind a bunch of archaeology. All of that contributes to the development of scientific and research missions that we can go do that allow us to see these things and contribute in some way to new data, new information, new discoveries. Sorry, Jade, I didn't mean to cut you off. But
Oh, no, not at all. So one of the great things in Star Citizen's universe is they have a system called Redor, which is literally a system that think of a university system, right? Where every planet
Can you spell that for me?
So the Redor system is RHETOR, and there's a planet in it. TOR.
RHETOR, right?
TOR. Yep. There's a planet in it called Persei, right? And it has a University of Persei analytical research and quantification, which is state sponsored, which is like a very, very prestigious scientific institute. And this whole system is known for education, but this planet is known for scientific research and across fields like mining, whatever, different types of high technology. And then also, you may know the ship manufacturer Asperia. Asperia actually gives like scholarships to the University of Redor for xenoarchaeology. So there again is, another connection to something we have in the game. And by the way, Xperia is also located on Terra in another city on Terra called Kudaraman. Kudaram. And so like that's 4 cities now you're talking about on Terra. So that's why I'm skeptical that, maybe they'll give us Terra with 1 city or 2, but if they want to give it to us with all of them at once, I feel it would be a little bit further out.
I mean, they've had Nix in development for quite a few years, and it was like they like you said, and like they said in the video, it was in the pilot phase. So who knows what other systems they may have in their pocket? To Griffin's point, he's expecting them to drop 4 or 5 systems in one go. So we can hope for that, but you never know.
The planets are quick to make. The cities, landing zones are long to make.
Yep.
That's really
fair.
where they get slowed down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nix already had its landing zone done. It was in the game, so they really didn't have to do anything else as far
Build
as
it out
Nix's
more.
landing zone. They can build it out. Yeah, build it out.
Make it nicer.
But the
that's
assets,
about it.
right?
Yeah.
The assets and the style of it, all
Yeah.
that work had been done. Is what I'm
Yep.
saying.
Oh yeah, yeah. I want to
Griffin,
see
you
it
have
more.
an answer
You know
for
what I
this,
mean?
or
Which
you
one?
have an answer for this before I try to give my answer, or you don't know?
No, go ahead. Nope.
Okay, so it's not a planet, but it is a station. But the Ark.
Mm.
The Ark.
Mhm.
So that's a lore piece. It's scientific. Right here it said the Ark is a vast library of archive station located in the United Empire. You said someone say Tayak system?
Yep, Tayak.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
So, the largest library of the archive UEE archives records created for information and artifacts pertaining to the accumulated knowledge of all known spacecraft civilization. The initial concept of the Ark was presented in UEE in 2794 by the then diplomatic secretary Marshall Leon as a neutral information repository for the benefit of all culture and civilization, which was approved the same year and completed in 2800. The Ark Galactic and Ark Star Map as two of the most utilized resources. So they're tying in real life and in game or out of game with this application, the Ark Star Map. So this is what we're using and what we have been using, and we're using the Galactopedia for all this information. So it's not a planet per se, but it is a place.
Yeah,
in the
and
Tayak system.
I could see xenoarchaeology being a thing in the Hades system. For people who don't know, there are a group, this species called the Hadesians that no longer exist. They had a big war.
So they say.
Yeah, so they say, and exactly, so they say. But I think that might be somewhere that you would go to do xenoarchaeology, find artifacts, and then maybe you deliver. If you find like something that really starts to piece together their story, you maybe take it there to the Ark. And who knows, like you could maybe get your name into the Galactopedia. They have said, CIG has said that things that are like very significant that players find or do can get you into the Galactopedia. So who knows, maybe it'll be something like that.
Maybe you'll come back with white hair because you'll get scared going to the Hades system.
That would be cool too.
I also think that tactically, science and research will be fundamentally tied to crafting. So just to keep an eye on that as well.
So yeah, I brought up the Ark in the Ark Star Map. This is something to have in lore, and it's in the map. So yeah. All right. So I think that's it. Thank you for those questions, and I think it's time to wrap up. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Griffin Gaming. Thank you, Jade, and thank you, CaptainSeriousFun. Real quick before we get going. And thank you all for joining us in chat too. So appreciate it on YouTube and Twitch. What's coming up next? Jay, do you want to take Soul Talk?
Sure. Soul Talk is every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Wait, are we still 9 p.m. Eastern?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And that takes place every Thursday. And that's where you can come into our Discord and talk about your thoughts on anything that happened in the last week in Star Citizen, the Star Citizen community, anything related to Star Citizen, that is your platform to come in and have your say.
Thank you for that. Kat, you want to take Soul Voices?
Sure. Soul Voices coming up, what does this say? This Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time?
2 p.m. I got to change that, 2 p.m.
Okay. 2 p.m. Eastern Time, back to our normal time. And Soul Voices is where you can assert your voice in conversation with Griffin Gaming RPG as he reviews the discourse among players and the wider Star Citizen ecosystem, Reddit, on Spectrum, and questions that emerge for him in terms of things he wants to discuss and have us consider. You can come into Discord and have your voice heard and express your ideas around some of these questions, concerns, and issues and ideas. That's Soul Voices every Saturday, almost every Saturday, but certainly this Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
Thank you for that. And that is
that's part of PodSat Saturday.
I was going to cover
that's
it.
Part
you
of
got it. Go ahead.
PodSat Saturday. And PodSat Saturday goes from us and Soul Voices to the Astropub, very often the Captain's Table with Paul Shelley, and then the OGs of Star Citizen Relay at 9 p.m. Recently, there's been some overlap between us and Paul, and I saw some folks in the chat for Soul Voices this past week saying that frustrated them. I know that, we have conversations with Paul, but we're staying at our 2:00 slot. And my hope is that you'll come to us and then head on over to the Astropub.
Thank you for that. And then for Sunday. I clicked on it. Yeah, I clicked on it. There you go. It's going. It was thinking really hard. We have Father's Day, so there will be no show on Father's Day. I got to get Griffin on there, so he's still with us. Yeah, I got to get Happy Father's Day, for that is next Sunday, the 16th. So, yeah, we'll be taking a week off. Make sure you say hi and tell your family you love them and what have you. And, yeah, so I think that's about it. You want to support us? You can support us on Patreon. You can buy merchandise. And make sure you hit like, subscribe, or follow, depending on what platform you're on, and hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. I think that's it. So thank you all for joining us. We are going to raid Dark Hour 717. So 717. We're going to raid Dark Hour and make sure you send them our love. Doctor, thank you for the follow. We're just about to head out, so I hope you enjoy the show. So thank you for that. Yes, so make sure you send them our love, okay? And with that, peace, love, and show.